There are countless Cotswold villages which are beautiful, but there are a few that are memorably picturesque. Chipping Campden is one of them. Come along for this little tour of the town center, the iconic market hall, the stunning homes, the manor house ruin, and stay tuned to the end to see what I think is my most favorite of the lavish wool churches. On the outskirts of Chipping are some gorgeous thatched homes which are charming and noteworthy, and one of the reasons I think the town is so picturesque. I stood on the pavement and stared at this home for a long time, and one captivating feature in the front garden is these two huge statues of hounds on either side of the front door. As an added bonus, I'm always really chuffed when there's a Union flag flying perfectly in the breeze in front of a lovely specimen of British architecture like this. But the real star of the show in town is the Market Hall. I'm standing in Chipping Campden's iconic Market Hall, which is really the centerpiece of the town. And while this Market Hall was built in 1627, Chipping Campden was established back in the 7th century and was probably inhabited well before that. In the 11th century, it was recorded in the Domesday Book. King Henry II made Chipping Campden a market town. And Chipping Campden is an interesting name, and often we hear it and we think, chipping, is it falling apart? But of course, chipping just means market. So it's a famous market town. The market hall floor is so ancient and uneven. I'm glad I'm not wearing 5-inch heels. Just imagine the thousands of sheep and other livestock that walked these stones over the centuries, and now are walked by thousands of tourists each year. Okay, this is a little bit funny. This sign in the market hall says that it's an offense to deface the structure or to deposit waste. But right above the sign, there's a pigeon that's been pooping all over the top of the sign. How's that for irony? The market hall was constructed by Sir Baptist Hicks, who you will hear more about when we visit the Campden House and parish church area of town in a bit. The Noel family, who is also part of the church tour, owned this market hall in 1942 when it was sold to the National Trust. The Cotswold Way originated in 1970 when the Cotswolds was named an area of outstanding natural beauty. It is a hiking route that runs about 100 miles, as this marker indicates, from Chipping Campden to the city of Bath. In fact, I assume this pillar marks the beginning of the trail. Because Chipping Campden is a market town, there are plenty of options for eating and shopping when you come visit. Let me know in the comments if you have a favorite place that you've eaten in town. This clothing store made me laugh, as its tagline is that it's a dressing up box for the grown-up lady. I love that there are so many interesting things to see in the town of Chipping Campden. Please do me a favor and be sure to click the like button. It really helps my channel to grow. Cheers! This is Greville House, the home of William Greville, who died in 1401. He was a prominent landowner in Chipping Campden and one of the most influential, wealthy wool merchants of the day. Reportedly, he was the leading purchaser of wool from the Cotswold Hills. And this is the nearby Wool Staplers Hall, which was built in 1340 and was a wool exchange for centuries, where merchants could purchase wool to ship around the world. One of my favorite things to see in a Cotswold town or village is this, Sheep Street. It's a reminder that this is what made the Cotswolds famous and the unique place that it is, and how we must honor that tradition to keep this special area of outstanding natural beauty preserved for future generations. Unlike so many places, the phone box here in Chippy is still a phone box, though it probably does need a fresh coat of paint.
Here you can see the ruins of Campden House, destroyed by that terrible person Oliver Cromwell.
Campden House no longer stands, but we do have this lovely gate and the two gatehouses. And the banqueting halls also remain. We thought this was a sheep dip for washing ewes, which is why I'm pretending to take a bath. But turns out not everything in the Cotswolds is focused on sheep. This is actually a cart dip, where people would wash their cartwheels. These almshouses, built in 1602 by Sir Baptist Hicks to provide housing for 12 poor residents of the town, still is home to a dozen pensioners from the area. Court Barn is a museum of design for the arts and crafts movement, and it's located right here next to the famous Wool Church. St. James's Church in Chipping Campden is one of the famous wool churches that were built with the money from the very wealthy wool merchants here in the Cotswolds, who were profiting from their amazing wool that they were selling. Maybe they thought if they gave all that money to the churches, it would help them get to heaven, despite their incredible wealth.
Remember, it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven.
Well, we got all these graves here. I wonder if the wealthy wool merchants got into heaven or not. The church tower was built about 1500 and contains 8 bells. This is a really beautiful walkway leading up to the main door of the church. This is definitely one of the most lavish wool churches in the Cotswolds. has over 10,000 pieces of glass in it. While the east window is the most significant and impressive one in the chancel, the other two windows on either side are also beautiful as well. This beautiful vestment is known as the Chipping Campden cope. It's from around 1400 and is believed to be the only surviving English cope from this time period. It was recently restored by the Conservation Department at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, a place that knows a lot about artistic textiles. As part of the restoration, they discovered this hidden image of the Virgin Mary and baby Jesus on the Morse. Here in the bell tower, it's a beautiful window. There's the bell ringing rope coming down here. And then here is the wall hanging from the 15th century. It's just beautiful. It's interesting to note that both the altar hangings and the cope disappeared during the Civil War during the mid-1600s. They reappeared after the enthronement of Charles II in 1660, and it's unknown where they were hidden and by whom. The brass lectern was the gift of Sir Baptist Hicks in 1618 and is of 15th century Flemish workmanship. The pulpit is Jacobean and was presented to the church by Sir Baptist Hicks in 1612. Near the pulpit is a half font which seems to have been worked on a Norman bull. Sir Baptist Hicks built Old Campden House next door to the church in 1613, and it was destroyed during the English Civil War in 1645. These tombs are memorials to the Hicks, Gainsborough, and Noel families. The monument on this wall is to Lady Penelope Noel, who died from blood poisoning whilst she was working on sewing with brightly colored silk fabrics of the day. Y'all know I'm obsessed with devil's doors if you've seen any of my prior church videos, but I decided this was my favorite devil's door I've ever seen. It is beautifully shaped and so tiny, especially for the grand scale of the church overall. I hope you enjoyed this wee tour of Chipping Campden. Please stick around for our future Cotswold videos, our future culture discussions, and lots more fun stuff coming soon. Thanks so much for watching, and do something good in the world today.